Okay, if at any point you can't hear me anymore, tell me, like wave arms and give me some sort of notice. All right, so I'm just gonna jump right in. We're having kind of a stormy night and we're putting up a light. So we have no lights in my bedroom, so it's a little dark and moody in here. And I had to give my desk away to my daughter. So I'm gonna show you just what a mess we have over here because we're doing virtual learning and I have 3 in elementary school today. So I felt a little bit like, I don't drink, but I wanted to drink at 9 a.m. today. I was done. So I'm actually really glad to be here because I got to put all the kids away for a minute and just have some alone time. So tonight we want to talk about kind of just prioritizing and productivity. And I was excited that Sarah wanted me to speak on this just because I do get asked quite often, and especially lately, I'll get people that say like, how do you do it all? And the first thing is like, I do not in any shape or form do I do it all. Like you just saw how messy my room was. There's always give and take. So when I'm willing to give up things for my business, it's typically like laundry or, you know, just other things have to slide. And other things take priority. And this is so seasonal for me. I mean, it's just, I feel like every 6 months it has to shift and evolve and change with me. But that's what I love about it too, is I'm able to do that. So just a little background on me for those of you that don't know, when I started ZYIA, I did start 3 years ago at the very beginning, a couple weeks in after they started. And at that point, I had 4 kids, 6 and under. I was homeschooling and I was working as a nurse. Not full time, but I was working as a nurse. And my husband and I own a traditional business as well. And so as I got going, like I didn't have any extra time. I think my baby at that point was 5 months old. I don't know, my oldest was 6. So it was just chaos, like utter chaos. And that's when I quickly learned like I could not do it all. Like I could not, there was just no way. And so I had to start like learning how to work in truly like the cracks of my life. I mean, so while I'm like sitting there nursing, you know, I'm reaching out to people on the phone, I'm doing whatever. And I would just find ways to make it work. And so as we got going a little bit more, my husband got diagnosed with severe anxiety that was actually so debilitating that he could no longer work. So then I had to take over our traditional businesses. So here I was homeschooling. At this point, I was also teaching in the nursing program and 4 little kids. Like life could not have been any more insane for me. But when I look back at that, like that was actually one of the best times of ZYIA for me. And that's not to say like I was totally coping with ZYIA, which is not necessarily healthy, but that's what I did. That was like my me time that just didn't, you know, like it didn't involve anyone else or any other big feelings or anything. I didn't have to acknowledge or, you know, work through anything. And so at that point, that was actually the turning point for me where I feel like I really was able to just buckle down and do what mattered, because I didn't have a second to spare. It just was, it had to be like crucial, good work that I was doing. So I remember going to that first summit. So he actually went to, not inpatient, it was an outpatient therapy up in Utah. And the second week he was there, so I'm home with all the kids, we had gone up there and it happened to be summit for ZYIA. And I remember sitting in there and watching all these girls, you know, doing all these things. And I was doing okay. Like I wasn't by any means like, oh my gosh, I'm doing nothing. But as I watched them and they talk about working, they're like, okay, so when I work my business, and I remember literally like writing down, what does work mean? I didn't even know what work my business meant. I didn't. And so when people come to me and they're like, what do you mean by like work your business? I'm like, no, I love that question. Don't ever feel ashamed of that, because there was a point I had no clue what that meant. Like as a nurse, I know what it means to go to work, but I didn't know in direct sales what it meant in this space. And so when we're talking about like working your business, if you're one of those that is still questioning, like, what does that mean? You know, that's where you prioritize those things that matter. The reach outs, the talking to people, the following up, you know, whether that's talking to them about being a customer, hosting a party, or joining your business, and then following up. That's literally all this business is about, is sharing and constantly sharing and one-on-one. It's great to share on social media in a group setting, but that one-on-one is where it'll get me every time. I know I was in an Usborne Books party, and she, of course, you know, was kind of like our parties run very similar. So she like was like, hey, last night to order whatever. And I just totally forgot. She followed up with me and I spent $180 on books. But because when it's a personal touch, it just changes everything. So that's, you know, that's when I truly realized what working meant was just connecting with people and sharing and talking. That's it. That's what working was. So after that first summit, that's kind of when I realized like, okay, that's what work is. So then the 2 things that I feel like helped me the most, we've got to prioritize tasks and prioritize time. So those are the two things that I feel like will just be like game changers in your business. So when we're looking at tasks and prioritizing tasks, we have to look at what's important. So we kind of just talked about those things and why those are important. So social media is important. It is. It's a good thing. It's an awesome tool to use. If you are spending 45 minutes a day trying to write a post, that is not income producing. It's not. Social media is a great platform to be open, but that is not going to really get you your value back out. And my husband, you know, after being in the traditional business space, he was able to coach me through some of the things. And one thing he said to me, he's like, don't ever trade a $2,500 hour for a $10 hour. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? He's like, okay, so if I could go out, so we own pest control companies. And he's like, if I could go out and knock on doors and sell 15 accounts, that's a $2,500 an hour. Well, I don't actually know how many accounts it takes to get that, but he's like, if I could go do that in 1 hour versus answering phones where that's a $10 an hour job, he's like, I'm worth more than that. And he's not being cocky or like rude about that, but he's like, same with you, you're worth more than that. So yeah, get those social media posts out there. Do not sit and focus on like getting just the exact wording right, or, you know, whatever. You can always go off and take it off if it's just awful. But that work that matters is you reaching out. So don't ever trade those big numbers for that $10 an hour task. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. And your time, you're more valuable than that. So you need to just respect yourself enough to know, like, okay, I'm going to spend X amount of time. So when we're talking about prioritizing tasks as well, I feel like this is one it's hard to focus, because as we're connecting and reaching out, typically I do that, I'd say 90% of the time, that's social media for me. And how easy is it to get on? Like today was our first day of virtual school back, and I got on and it was bombarded with angry moms about how awful Zoom was today. And so I have to come back and realize I set timers for myself all the time. And I will say, okay, I've got 20 minutes on Facebook. I'm going to make 10 touches. And by that, I don't just mean I'm going to reach out and tell someone, you know, like, hey, join my business, because that's not my jam. That's not exactly how I work it. But what I am going to do, I'm going to do 10 touches, meaning I'm going to comment on someone else's post. I'm going to, you know, maybe ask someone, hey, I know you love those light and tights. Are you interested in hosting a party? I know you said September. Let's get it on the books, you know, for now or whatever. However, I'm going to reach out, but I give myself that time limit so I don't like squirrel to other stuff, because it's so easy, especially in the social media world, especially with everything going on. Like, do you just get on and feel like your head's going to explode when you get off? That's kind of how I feel lately. And so it's actually been a little bit easier for me to get on and off, because I don't want the heavy. So I get on, do my tasks, and get off. And I give myself, you know, like I said, I'll do 10 minutes or 20 minutes and give myself like, okay, I need to reach 10. So make sure when you're getting on, it's really intentional time, like that it's not just scrolling, because 20 minutes of scrolling it's not gonna make you money, and it's not time you ever get back. So just be really intentional as your time is spent in that space, especially. Okay, so then the second thing is prioritizing your time. So this is where I feel like you're gonna have to work it and make it, like, tweak it and change it for you. But for me, it was easiest to like batch stuff together. So if I'm doing team training calls, I like to do them all at once. Like, let's do 3 in a row, because I'm on a roll, I'm doing stuff. Most of the time, my kids are gonna be entertained for an hour and a half. You know, they get one show. So I know, like, okay, an hour and a half, like I can do whatever work I need to do without kids around. So I batch things. Sunday night, I try to batch my content. If you go look at my Instagram right now, you'll tell Sunday night I didn't batch my content because this week it sucks. But I can always tell a big difference. It takes me about like 30 minutes to batch the whole week, where it literally this morning took me like 15 minutes to think of one post. And I'm like, what a waste of time. Like, it probably wasn't a post that's going to be like so overwhelming or empowering to anyone, you know, that they're going to be like, yes, Brittany, I want to join you. It's important, yes, but also I feel like that's such a waste of my time. So batching that content, using your timer. And then the third thing is time blocking. So if you've never heard of time blocking, there's so many resources out there, worksheets and different ways for you to figure out what works for you. So I'll just tell you how it works for me. So with time blocking, first of all, I want to recognize when I time block, I do not multitask. Meaning I'm not going to be like, okay, so in this hour period, I'm going to go finish the laundry and I'm going to do this and this. No, because we can give like, you half-a it. Like, I'm trying to keep it G-rated here, but like you're mediocre at it at best when you're doing laundry and trying to do this and that and this and that. And as women, I think a lot of times, like, we're really good multitaskers, but if I want to be really efficient, I won't do anything else. So typically my mornings, this is like school year, summertime is not so much, but for the school year, I'll wake up at 5:30 in the morning and I give myself a half hour. So from 5:30 to 6 is usually my me time. So that's personal development. I'm a spiritual person, so I spend that time like in scripture and prayer. And that's just my like time to wake up. Now, it's hard for me not to like get on my alarm and immediately like start scrolling. Like, that's something that really I have to like intentionally not do. So I get my phone, turn my alarm off, and set it like away from me. I mean, literally like down the couch. And then I pick up my scriptures and do some reading, praying, personal development time, picking up whatever book I'm interested in at that point. And then from 6 to 7 is usually ZYIA for me. So that's like my time when I reach out and follow up and make those connections online. And here's why I love that time. Because from 6 to 7, most people, I mean, I'm Mountain Standard Time, so I will get East Coast people, but typically speaking from 6 to 7, it's not a busy time where customers are reaching out to me a whole lot, team members aren't reaching out to me a whole lot. And so I'm able to truly just sit down and work and buckle down. And if you haven't already, you will be shocked at how much you can get done in like an hour of time where it's not interrupted, whether that's people in your home, people on your team. And it's not bad interruptions. I'm not saying that in a negative light, but just how much I'm able to get done without distractions. So in that time blocking time frame, my 6 to 7 a.m., that's what I do. I just bust out all my ZYIA tasks. I am very much like, I don't know what a planner is, but my planner is like my life. You could know me inside and out if you look at my planner. I write everything down. That includes my ZYIA tasks. So I have my right-hand side is ZYIA. So I'll just have everything I need to get done. So when I wake up in the morning, I know exactly what I'm going to do. So like I said, those morning is usually for like the reach outs and the follow-ups. And so that's what works best for me. I check back in midday. So that's usually my team check-in. I'll make sure everybody's squared away. Nobody has big questions. And of course, if I get a question here or there from especially like a new team member, I'm going to respond to it. But for the most part, I try to time block my whole life, meaning from, 8 to 11:30 is my family. That's my family time. I don't do a whole lot with ZYIA at that point, just because then I can give everybody 100% and not everyone feels like they're just getting 50% of me all the time. The other reason I love that is that you don't get so burned out, because as much as we love ZYIA, you are not 100% ZYIA. You're not. And that's what makes you interesting, and that's what makes you you. So like for 3 weeks, I built a freaking chicken coop. So I was out there every day at 5:30. I had to trade my ZYIA time because it was nice and cool, because I didn't want to be out in the 100-degree weather. So in that time frame, of course, then I switched my ZYIA work. So that's what I'm meaning. Like, we have seasons where we can go through this stuff and it shifts and it changes, and it should. I think that's how I can think of one time I've been burned out from ZYIA in 3 years. And that's because I knew I was going to get burned out because I knew what I was doing, but I was putting forth so much towards it and ignoring so much else. So it wasn't even necessarily a burnout. It was just a time that I knew, like, okay, I need to rein it back and let's pick up all these other pieces that I left behind. So as we time block, I'm able to give 100% in like 4 different directions, where before I time blocked, I felt like I was giving 50%, to everything basically. And that felt overwhelming, and it just didn't feel good to me. And so time blocking truly was like a game changer for me and for my business. So I would do like noon to 1. And then again, as soon as kids go to bed, I do like 8, depending on how much I need to get done, 8 to 9 or 8 to 8:30. And then that's it for the day. So that's currently like my summer schedule. That's kind of what it looks like. Now during the school year, of course, this year's a little different. We're doing all virtual. So I'm going to have to find my groove again. But I also think that's important in you recognizing and honoring yourself and knowing like what's a good thing. Now, when we're talking about prioritizing too, you can't put ZYIA at number 5 and expect to make $30,000 a month. That's the other thing. Like, I was talking to someone the other day and she's like, I realize and recognize that I'm wanting a $10,000 paycheck, but I'm putting in $1,000 worth. And I'm like, okay, as long as you recognize that. So if you're wanting to be this big, huge business, at the beginning, your time blocking is going to look mostly ZYIA. And that's okay, because I promise you that first big paycheck you get, it feels worth it. And not that money's everything, because it's totally not. In my team, I always preach that, like, money is not everything, but it also buys you freedoms. It bought me being able to stay home with my family. so that I could choose to homeschool if I needed or virtual school, and I didn't have to juggle nursing and 4 kids. So when I'm talking about prioritizing and you're looking at maybe my time blocking and thinking like, okay, so 3 hours a day, well, that's my summer schedule. And then, you know, during the school year, I probably do spend, you know, 3 to 5 hours a day on it. So it's going to totally depend on the season you're in, what you can offer, because I know right now you may be only able to offer an hour. That's okay. Make it count. I know that almost every single leader on this call or wherever would tell you right now, if you've got 30 minutes to work and that's it today, skip the call, go do the work that the IPAs, the income producing activities, go do the reach outs. That's what will make you the money back. Trainings are awesome. And like, I learn every single time I have one. I also am very like, it's usually in the car or when I'm doing laundry or when I'm cooking, you know, one of those times where you can give 50% and 50% and it all works out just fine. Like my meal is still going to get made even when I did it at 50%. So if you've got 30 minutes, that goes back to the prioritizing. Make sure you're spending it doing what works. I always tell my girls that. I'm like, I would rather you skip me altogether. Don't even listen to me. Just go reach out to people if that's all you can give. And if you're in that space where I was at the beginning of literally drowning, I mean, I think I got 3 hours of sleep a night for like 2 weeks. But if you're in that space, you can still make it work. So it's just all about like quality, not quantity, right? Like as long as you are giving the good time, it doesn't matter if it's 40 hours a week, as long as you're giving that good concentrated effort. And then really the last thing that I wanted to talk about or to leave you with was just kind of that success is not glamorous. I know when people were like, oh, working, you know, like remember when I didn't know what that meant, like what does work mean? I kind of envisioned this really like glamorous, like, you know, sitting in an office space or like being super organized with this great, you know, my friend has this awesome like co-working space. And I kind of envisioned like, oh, that's what working is. When in actuality, I'm coming at you from my bed with no lights. Like success is not glamorous. It's not. It's the muddy, hard, yucky work most of the time. And there's so much about mindset where you can obviously like have a mind shift and enjoy it. But success, I mean, and this is for life, right? Like it's never beautiful. All the work that goes in before, it's not good, you know, good, beautiful work usually. It's hard and you're the only person that can make it happen. So I challenge you all to, if time blocking, if you've tried it and that's not your thing, like just find your jam, find what it is, but make sure that you are dedicating those specific time every single day. Set your timers, you know, get your accountability buddy so they can check in with you like, hey, have you done this? Whatever it's going to look like for you, but do those things that matter, that work, like that are actually, you're going to see a return on. You know, let's have those $2,500 hours versus the $10 hours. And don't get me mixed, or like, don't get it wrong or take it wrong that like, I'm saying like, oh, at first you're going to make so much money, because that's not the case either. You have to really work, but don't undervalue your time, you know, because that's like a slap in the face to yourself, to your family. Like make all of those minutes count. So if I can help in any other way with time blocking, feel free to reach out to me. Yeah, do we have any questions? I'm so sorry that this was started late, you guys. This was, I had our old password saved, and so it was not working for me. But if we have any questions, I'm gonna kind of look through the chat and see. Okay, Wendy asked if I have a daily checklist I use. I did, Wendy, I did. I'm very much a checklist person. I love, like, give me a list and I will get it done. It's kind of my personality. But I felt like this summer, I totally lost it. Like I just had to go with the flow a little bit more. So I don't currently have a daily checklist I use. One, I kind of was more along the lines of a weekly. So it'd be like Mondays are for follow-ups. Tuesdays are for, you know, Tuesday through Thursdays are my parties. Fridays are for, that's kind of how I would work. This summer, it turned into more of like set amounts of time. So like early in the mornings, you know, when I wasn't working on the coop or the backyard or whatever, that's when I would do my follow-ups and check in with my party hosts and all of that. I don't know if that's helpful at all for the daily checklists. Kind of went into like a weekly checklist, I guess. But I also think that's a really important thing to recognize. Over the space of 3 years, I've probably had 6 different schedules of time blocking. Like it's looked very different for me. And I think it's important to kind of go with the flow and still make it a priority in whatever space you're in. Let's see. Oh, batching your posts. So Shannon asked, can you explain what batching your posts means? So Shannon, what I'll do is I try to focus on 3 things on my social media. And so what I'll do on Sunday nights is I typically will go in and kind of know what I'm going to talk about, right? So like I share books. I love reading, and I like sharing books that I like and don't like, which by the way, I just finished, well, I didn't finish it. If you were a Twilight fan once upon a time, the new one from Edward's View sucks. So don't even go there, because now as a mom, I feel like, ew, he's so creepy. Or I was obsessed with Twilight. But that sort of stuff is what I like to share. So I just know, like, you know, one of those days, in the next 5 days, I'm going to share a book. I'm going to share an easy recipe, like a 30-minute or less, or a kid-friendly recipe. I'm going to share one about ZYIA and what it's done for my life and how it's enabled me to retire from nursing or stay home. So it's really just kind of knowing. I think you definitely need to start with knowing. I'm sure you've heard of your 3 pillars, or your 3, you know, the 3 big things that you're going to focus on social media. You know, anywhere from 3 to 5, pick those things. And then every Sunday night, you know, okay, Monday, I'm going to talk about this. Tuesday, I'm talking about this. Wednesday, so you can get your posts like in order and ready to go out, so that you're not having to think up what you're going to say, or, you know, because there's nothing worse than waking up and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to post. Oh, what should I post about? Scrolling for pictures, like which one's decent that could look good in my feed. So yeah, by content batching, that's what I mean. It's just kind of getting all of your weekly content ready. That might be VIP groups, but any social that's going to need content, just kind of getting that all like prepped and ready. And it's so nice when you know, like, okay, you know, we'll just say Mondays are recipes, Tuesdays are books, Wednesdays are, you know, our new outfits from ZYIA, Thursdays are, you know, whatever. It makes your brain like, oh, it like rests. It's so nice. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to glance through here. Okay, so Teresa, how much time did you spend on ZYIA in the beginning, a year ago, and now? Okay, so I would say at the very beginning, we didn't even have a Facebook group at the very beginning. We were a disaster, like really a disaster. So I would say at the beginning, like, we didn't host Facebook parties. We just didn't know that that was even like possible or a thing. So we just did all in-home parties. So I spent a lot more time than I think my new reps, than I coach my new reps that they should spend. Interest, I would just say it depends on what you're wanting from it. I'm just going to assume you want a big business. Okay. Let's just assume that. So in the beginning, if you want a big business, I feel like you need to be putting in, more than time, I would say the amount of people you're touching. That's what you should focus on. Like, okay, I'm going to reach out to 20 people a day. And that's, like I said, it's not just reach outs about ZYIA, but connecting, right? We're connecting with those people so that they, you know, are watching and seeing what it's doing for you, and you're involved in their life as well and giving. So I would say make it more based on like, how many people can I touch a day and connect with in that fashion than certain amount of hours. So I would say a year ago, I was spending probably, I'd say it was probably like 3 to 4 hours a day on ZYIA. I was just starting to try to kind of like get my own team culture. And so I was spending a lot of time doing different documents and things like that. And that's kind of part of the ebb and flow process as well. Like when I really grind, you know, I might have like 2 weeks where I don't put a whole lot into it because that's the balance that I have to have for my life. So, and then I would say like now I'm spending summertime, I probably do 2.5 hours a day. My parties are a little more casual. I show up a little bit less, if that makes sense, like a little and quicker for my videos. And I think COVID kind of just threw everything anyway. We all just kind of, and I would always just go back to like, what do I want as a mom with kids at home? Like, you know, what can I offer them in that space where it's not just like one more thing to do? And so parties have been a lot shorter for me. I'm now going to those, you know, the hostess, the battle of the hostess or whatever we're calling it, but where we're running 4 parties essentially in 1 week. I'm going to start doing that because that makes so much sense. Your engagement's going to be up because you've got more people in the party. I just think that's so genius. That like blew my mind. I loved that so much. Yeah, so I think it's just, I would say set yourself up with specific goals, and I know your upline can help. You can reach out to me if you need as well, but I'd go based off of looking at what you're wanting, and then just take it back to like reaching out. How many reach outs should I do per day? And then break it down into the hours. Like, okay, I'm willing, I can give 2 hours a day. You know, what does that look like for me in each of those hour spaces? So I don't know if that's super helpful, but yes. And Megan pointed out the bucket Sarah did. She has, and I think we still have it up. But there's like a little PDF where you can look at the buckets and kind of allot time. I did that at the very beginning as well. I'd like write down my times for that and then check it off, because I'm a check off person. So I'd like check it off. I'd have 7 checks if I did it every day. So that was awesome. So let's see. Okay, how do you connect and reach out with ZYIA being the focus without cold messaging? So I definitely, oh, and Sarah said those buckets, they're under units. So you will find it on Team ZYIA Papaya. It's under units in there if you're interested in the buckets. So how do I connect without cold messaging? So usually my page, if you go on there, you can tell, I was going to go look at my Instagram, but I'll probably get distracted. But you can look and see that you have a general idea that I sell activewear in there. And so most of the time you think, like, if someone comments on your stuff or starts liking it, or you're starting to notice something, you're making a connection, what's the first thing you do? You go to their Instagram page and kind of stalk them, right? That's like I don't know, a normal, natural response, I feel like, just kind of see what they're about. So I feel like if anyone comes onto my page, they're going to get a general idea of like, okay, so Brittany, I think she must sell activewear because she's talking about it a lot, and get an idea from there. So usually, like, here's an example. There's a girl that's been liking my stuff for quite a while. And so today she was at some lake that I realized was in Colorado. So I live in northern New Mexico. So we're right under like southern Colorado. And so I just commented, oh my gosh, that's so gorgeous. What part of Colorado? I love Colorado so much. That is a genuine connection that I want to make with her. I want to hear all her favorite lakes in Colorado, because that's like what we do on the weekends. We just bounce to different lakes in Colorado. So connecting in that way that feels good to you, that's authentic, that like you would be friends over, even if ZYIA wasn't even a thing, right? That's how I make those genuine connections. And then we typically will start kind of engaging back and forth. I might ask her what she does for work. You know, she can tell me like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom, or I'm a nurse, or, you know, however we can connect on that level. I always try to find those, you know, similarities so that we can connect. I am a very, I'll make a friend with anyone. So that's not something that I've had to kind of like go into. It's very natural for me to just talk to everybody. And I think nursing did help that. I can talk to anybody. I did ICU. They were on drips and unconscious for days, and I just talked away. So that comes very natural to me to connect in that way. So I would just say find people that you have a similarity to and that you'd want to be friends with. And I always come back to viewing. I know sometimes it's hard to like connect with people when you feel like it's not authentic. Come back to the space of like, what do you have to offer, right? How are you going to serve her? Is that through awesome leggings that stay put? Because I know that seems little, but gosh dang, I remember training for a marathon with leggings that did not stay put. And I wish that somebody had told me about it, you know, before I found Lululemon. That's where I was at, you know, 4 years ago. So look at how you're serving. Like, do you have leggings to offer? You have a business to offer? You know, maybe you're doing something else you have to offer as well. So when you're coming from that space of serving, and you want to help, I just think the trend, like it just goes better. Like it's just a better, I don't even know how to describe it. I'm kind of at a loss for words right now, but I feel like it feels more natural and authentic to me. And so I don't even view it as like cold messaging. It's just connecting with someone online. So I don't know if that's helpful at all. Jessica asks if I focus more on Instagram than Facebook. Yeah, so I suck at Facebook. If you're my friend, you see that I've commented, or I've done like 5 posts in the last 2 years. Facebook's newer for me. Like Instagram is more natural. It's what I was doing before. And so that's the space where I share the most. And at the very beginning, that's where ZYIA did all of their stuff as well. So we were all very Instagram heavy. And then I think a lot of people that came in with like knowledge of Facebook's amazing. Like there is a community on Facebook that you just don't find on Instagram, or I can't seem to grasp it well. There's just a piece that I feel like we'd all love to get away from Facebook sometimes, but it's just, I don't know, there's that dang pull where we feel like we have to stay. There's just a great community there. So yeah, I'm definitely like Instagram, but I am trying to be a little bit more Facebook like involved, I guess is the word I'm saying. But I feel like you don't need to be like, I went, you know, almost 3 years without doing anything with Facebook. So master wherever you want to be, wherever your people are, just stay there. And then when you feel like the time's right, like, okay, now I've mastered this, we're good, it's time to branch out. Like, then branch out. So I don't think you have to be good at all of them. That just sounds like a lot of work. So is there any more questions? Again, I'm so sorry we were delayed. That was totally on me. I just had Sarah's old Facebook password in there, or the Zoom password. And so when I went to log on, it's like, nope, that's old. So, all right, well, thank you guys for chiming in. And I hope that this was a little bit helpful in helping you like prioritize all the things from now on. So we'll see you guys. Bye.